Hey folks, Randy Newberg here in beautiful Idaho Falls, Idaho today, doing another episode of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. And the reason I am in Idaho Falls on this late November day is because I was lucky that my path finally crossed again with Mr. Beau Baty, the llama man of the world. And if you saw our Wyoming elk hunt this year, you know that I am now the biggest fan of llamas. I'm probably a bigger fan of llamas than you are, Beau.
You're probably a better ambassador for sure.
I don't think so. But anyhow, folks, we're going to talk about llamas for backcountry hunting, how Beau spends over 100 days a year in the backcountry of the Northern Rockies, trying to get on a first-name basis with grizzly bears.
Yep.
How his llamas respond to that, how you take care of llamas when you're out hunting. And Beau's very modest. He is one of the greatest mule deer junkies I know. And since that's if I had to measure all my hunting experience, that's where I'm the thinnest in hunting experience. I got a lot of elk experience. I got a lot of antelope experience. I got a whitetail problem. I think we could call it a problem. Western whitetail problem. And, but mule deer, I didn't grow up. Did you grow up here in Idaho?
I grew up on the border, just barely into Utah.
Okay, which is the core of mule deer world.
Big time core.
If you travel to play, here's what I call the world of mule deer junkiness, if you want to call it. Western Colorado, Western Wyoming, pretty much everywhere south of the panhandle of Idaho, a little bit of eastern Oregon, all of Utah, and pretty much all of Nevada and northern Arizona. People there are wired differently.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a 400-inch bull elk walk across a parking lot, and people would be like, ooh, that's a pretty nice elk. But if you had a 180-inch mule deer walk across the parking lot, there'd be a fist fight over who got to take a picture of it.
Big time.
And that just... I mean, I'm not a mule deer nut, so I'm trying to figure out the wiring mechanisms here. They're just growing up with them, seeing them.
I think so. You know, I remember growing up as a kid and all the other kids in school. I mean, we actually got opening day of deer hunting rifle season off.
That should be a state law in every state.
You know, and that was...
I like that idea.
We like that.
Yeah.
And the kids... And I would always talk about their hunts and where they go and their family. And it was always about the deer hunt. Okay. And it was about grandpa shot this buck and dad shot this one. And so, I mean, everything revolved around the deer hunt because everyone did it and participated in it.
Okay. Well, that would make that'd make a good reason for why that core area I just described, if you made a big polygon there, those are the craziest mule deer people I know come from that corridor right there.
Definitely. And I think a lot of it stems from because people could get tags for so many years.
Yeah.
You know, they could always count on going. We're going to go get our venison meat, you know. Right. Even grandma's coming.
Well, we're going to get into all those kind of things. And Beau is a borderline. If you've ever hunted with Beau or spent camp with Beau, he can get a weather forecast. You could send him to the moon with a transistor radio and he'd have figured out some way how to get a weather forecast. We're going to talk about weather and mule deer, both short-term and long-term, because I think a lot of people, now the results are sort of in about how the hard winter of 2016-17 hammered mule deer, at least in Wyoming, Idaho, maybe a few other places, but... so we're gonna go, and then we're gonna talk about anything you want to talk about, Beau.
Great.
You've spent a week in a camp with me now, so you've got all kinds of stories, incriminating evidence.
Evidence.
You know, hey, Randy is really stupid. If you ever, you know, you're gonna hear some of these. If you ever saw Randy do this, you'd be scratching your head. But before we do that, we want to talk about the great folks that make this podcast possible. It is called Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio for a reason. Leupold supports everything we do, from you name it. whether it's this podcast, TV show, website, thehunttalk.com forum. They just say, Randy, get out there, keep promoting the public land, self-guided hunting message, and we got your back. So can't thank them enough. If you're in the market for optics, I hope that you'll lean hard towards Leupold. Great company, great products. Orion coolers, I got a whole truckload of them with me right now. I'm on my way to Arizona for a late elk hunt. We're going to be living out of coolers, living in tents. How many days a year do you end up in a tent, Beau?
My wife thinks it's way more than it actually is, but I mean, usually when I calculate it all up, it's always over 100 days.
In a tent?
In a tent.
Wow. So yeah, when we were driving back from the sheep hunt the other day, I think we were debating whether we were on the road day 100 or 101.
Wow.
But we thought about only 70 of those were actually tent time.
Some travel time? Yeah,
travel time and other stuff. I've got 5 days of tents ahead of me here this week, and then I'm done tenting it. This gets, after a while, there's this romantic notion about, I'd love to stay in a wall tent. I'd love to go. Yeah, that works for about a week. Yeah. After about 7-10 days, you're like, where's a motel? Yeah. A cabin? But anyhow, we live out of our Orion coolers. They're great coolers. If you're interested in buying one, and I would suggest you do, it'd be a great Christmas gift for the outdoors person in your family. Go to orioncoolers.com, and if you use promo code Randy, you're going to get this really cool tumbler that they have. So you get 2 Christmas gifts for the price of one. orioncoolers.com. Onyx Maps, I think about, was there hunting before Onyx Maps? I'm sure, there was, but I mean,
especially in Montana, right?
Yeah, hunting in the way that I do it, when I hunt a lot of these difficult access areas, checkerboard areas, the number of places I would not hunt, or I would not have hunted 10 years ago before that product was available, I would say over half the places I hunt, I wouldn't be hunting if it weren't for the Onyx system, and you can get it. I'm now a full convert. In the last 2 years, Marcus has tried to convert me from my old school GPS to my app on my phone, and I will say I'm now converted. I have seen the light. Yeah, and it's in fact, I have all those Arizona maps downloaded on my phone, because a lot of people are like, well, what if you don't have service? Well, if you download the maps offline, you can just put your phone on airplane mode and runs great. GPS is still running. You got all this detail. You got all these layers that I can't get on my Garmin. So onyxmaps.com, it will change the way you approach your hunting. It'll change how you do your applications. Once you use it, you'll say, how did I live without this? Yeah. So use promo code Randy, R-A-N-D-Y. And Beau's thinking, man, everything's Randy around.
Everything's Randy.
You need to. Can we name one of your llamas, Randy? Can I get like naming rights? I mean,
maybe
AT&T Stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium.
We'll name a pod of llamas the Randy team.
There you go. What's that going to cost me? Do I get?
That's a good question.
When we get further into this, I'm going to tell you the idea that Leupold had for your llamas.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, you'll crack up. But anyhow, go to gohunt.com, use promo code Randy, and you're going to get 20% off all their app products. So, wow. Again, another Christmas idea for you. It is what? What are they? So they have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and what today's Tuesday? What's the Tuesday version?
Onyx Maps, 20% off Tuesday.
Randy promo code Tuesday.
Randy promo code Tuesday. I like
that. We can't talk about applications coming up. We're going to touch on some of that because I'm trying to convince Beau to burn all of his points. This guy's been building points for quite a while now, and
I'm ready.
I'd really like to spend more time hunting with him and his llamas. So, the thing that's going to help him burn those points is the subscription to GoHunt.com, their insider. I've spent all the Thanksgiving weekend I'm already researching next year's season. That's crazy, isn't it?
You know, you have an addiction. You're trying to fuel it, you know. I get it.
Yeah, my wife calls it a sickness. Maybe sickness and addiction are the same thing. But GoHunt.com has all of the key western states that traveling hunters are interested in. It has unit-by-unit analysis. It has over-the-counter analysis, general tag, all the units. I mean, from the glory units down to the general units. It has percent of public land versus private land. And what's really critical in the application period is they have the most accurate, the best, nailed it, kind of bullseye draw odds of any service out there. There is no website that has the draw odds that GoHunt has. So if you sign up for their insider and you use promo code Randy, you're going to get a $50 credit in their gear shop. And they don't carry knickknacks and pantyhose. They carry serious Western backpack hunting gear. You know, you walk into some of these sporting goods stores, it's like, well, you're selling cashews and, gummy bears and
catfishing poles.
Yeah. It's like, are you a hunting store? What's the deal here, man?
Yep.
False advertising.
Right.
But anyhow, not at Go Hunt. Their gear shop is serious stuff. If it doesn't work, it's not going to end up in their gear shop. So there you have it, folks. Use promo code Randy for anything I talk about, and the odds are you're going to get some sort of benefit. But so, Beau, folks, a little background. Beau lives here in Idaho Falls or somewhere outside Idaho Falls.
Yep.
He met me here at the Hilton Garden Inn. We're not doing this in a camp, just so people know.
Yeah,
I don't want them to think
a little more fancy than I'm used to.
Yeah, you didn't have to wake up and break the frost off the water jug or anything like that. But
Tent didn't fall in on us at night.
What Beau made reference to there is we were in the backcountry of Wyoming. He came in with his llamas and shared the hunt with us. And what was it, the third night when that blizzard struck and
I think so.
Your wall tent, the center pole broke?
Yep.
Yeah. I was in my Hillyberg and I hear this commotion. I am like, there a bear over there? What is going on? And I just hear this hitting and slapping and going and carrying on. And I fell back asleep. And then I hear some more noise about a half hour later. Wake up, and the center post on Beau's wall tent had collapsed. And he went out in the woods in the dark and cut himself you got yourself a nice lodgepole pine or something there, didn't you?
Yep. That was the only option.
Yeah. It worked better than that aluminum one that broke on you.
Yeah. Since then, I've decided that I'm just going to design my own tent.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You're going to cut your posts when you're out there in the hills?
Maybe.
Or haul them in?
Cut them.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we quickly learned, how many llamas? You brought 7 llamas, didn't you, Beau?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we did have 7.
So we went into the Wind River Range, and I was telling the camera crew, I'm like, dude, Michael, Marcus, you guys got to pack light. And Beau shows up, meets us in Pinedale, and I'm looking at this string of llamas, and I am like, whoa, I could probably bring Dairy Queen in with this stuff, man. And if you share a camp with Beau and his llamas, it's a pretty luxurious camp compared to what we're accustomed to. But when you spend 100 and some days a year back there, you probably have figured out where the value of weight versus comfort is.
Yeah, you definitely, learn what works well for you anyway, and what you can depend upon.
Yeah. The backcountry's not the place to find out what you can't depend upon. Do you ever have gear failures?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I first started, it was gear failure after gear failure. And it was mostly because I was shopping at Walmart, I didn't have any money.
Nothing wrong with Walmart if you got to save some money, but it's not the place known to get you the best backcountry
and
gear.
It gets you by, but what I realized is that stuff needed to last more than a season and more than 2 seasons. And
it's an investment, not an expense.
Yep, exactly. And it takes a while to accumulate gear that you trust, and but lots of gear failure.
Yeah. Well, we were all taking serious notes about what we were seeing around your camp and in your pack and other stuff. Because we were like, well, we know this is one of those guys who's been there, done it, seen it, had it, broke it, fixed it. Those are the kind of people you take notes about.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Brian Martin, used to own Canadian Mountain Outfitters.
Oh, cool.
And now he owns Asian Mountain Outfitters. And the guy lives out of a backpack.
Really?
And I've always paid close attention to what Brian uses. And if you look at my packs, my gear, it's a scaled down version of the Brian Martin package.
Nice.
And so now if you see like what we're going to show up with next year, it's going to be the slightly scaled down version of the Beau Baty package. No, I hope that the video, and it's out on our YouTube channel, paints some picture about how llamas can change what your mind has about what a backcountry hunt has to be. I mean, it was still, exerting getting back there.
Oh, yeah.
But when you can put most of, especially with our production gear, on top of all of our food and camp gear and everything else, when you can lessen that load and when you're coming out, you got some help.
Oh, yeah.
It's not whether or not your buddy is hunting that day. You're not calling somebody. It's like, hey, Marshall,
let's do this.
Come on over here, buddy. Let's get this saddle on you.
Yeah.
But for us, anyhow, it was a game changer.
It definitely is. I think lately I've been thinking a lot about time, and people usually are cramped. No one has an abundance of time.
No, that's the rarest commodity in life, I think.
And when you go to the backcountry, you've got 4 or 5, maybe 7 or 10 days. And if you're hunting elk or if you're hunting deer a long ways away, 4 to 8 miles, whatever that may be, a lot of people think that on their first backcountry hunt, and I get a lot of first backcountry hunters, and I love to, help in any way I can, answer questions, help with logistics, gear planning, etc.
Yeah.
And you're not going to go elk hunt for 5 days and shoot an elk on the last day and expect to be to work Monday morning and get it up.
No.
And you're not going to do it on the 4th day, especially if you're solo hunting or even if you're with a pair of guys.
Right.
It can't be done. And so llamas allow you to hunt longer into your hunt. Mm-hmm. You could actually hunt to the very last moment of the very last day and take one trip with 2 llamas and get almost anything out.
Yeah.
And so, it becomes this opportunity to actually hunt longer. And then also, if you're a September hunter, which a lot of people are, who doesn't love to archery hunt in September or rifle hunt in the Wind Rivers in September?
Yeah.
A lot of times the weather is such that if you harvest something, you're very skeptical about the opportunity to get it out without any
spoilage. Yeah.
And that kind of avoids that for the most part.
Yeah. So when you were talking about this, I'm sure the very first thought that went through the mind of a listener when you said, you could carry this, you could carry that, is how much can an adult packing llama carry comfortably?
That's a good question. So an adult trained pack llama, you should expect them to carry at least 20% of their body weight. And that's kind of speaking of, llamas across the board. But the llamas that we're breeding are, they're an exception. They're really athletes. They're big, they're strong, they're muscular, very athletic. We expect them to carry at all times 80 pounds.
Wow. That includes their saddle and pannier?
Nope, that doesn't include that. We consider that the rigging, the saddle, the blanket, the straps, and all these things, the panniers.
Okay. So on top of that?
On top of that. We expect them to carry just a straight, flat 80 pounds. That's 40 a side. Mm-hmm.
That is cool. And when he says 40 a side, folks, Beau has a scale. And he is measuring to the pound to balance it out. I saw sometimes you didn't have anything that quite balanced it out, so you put a rock in one side to add an extra pound or two, so it was balanced.
So yeah, if you can be within 1 pound, things are going to go well, especially in tough terrain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're gonna while we're on this, and my mind is going back to us sitting in the tent waiting out some of those blizzards, and I got more about the history of llamas just because I was so curious. You probably got annoyed with me asking so many questions.
No, I like it.
It is remarkable and fascinating about llamas because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just driving down some rural highway and it says llama for sale. I'm going to stop and buy that thing, and man, I'm set up for the backcountry.
Yep, you got a backcountry expert.
Yeah. So when you said your llamas are athletes, I would say that llamas are a lot like humans. There are some who are athletic, and there are some who are accountants like me. Who drive a desk for a living. Your llamas are, you breed them for your sole purpose of what you use them for.
Yep, exactly. For commercial outfitting, high performance.
And
high
so
output.
they're going to be, you're talking about, you look for certain traits of where they're muscled, big shoulders. What is it that you want in a mountain llama, a packing llama? As compared to the guy who just has one out in the pasture because they're cool.
That's a great question. We're looking for animals. If you kind of just say a general trait, we're looking for athletic animals. And there's animals. If you look at a lot of times, llamas are compared to basketball players. When the llama breeders, the little co-op of us get together and we talk about it, it's always reference to athletes, And so like this one, he's built like a running back. Yeah. This one, he's built like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to have the LeBron James of llamas. Super tall, super muscular, very athletic. That's the ideal. That's what I'm breeding for. And what that means is an animal at the top of the shoulder, which they call the withers, we're looking for a target of 48 inches, which is hard to do.
4 feet.
4 feet.
At the top of the
the top of the shoulder, yep. So. And that puts these animals, about 70 to 75 inches at the top of the head.
So a little over 6 feet. You're looking at them eye to eye.
Eye to eye, yep. And their wool is typically 2 to 4 inches, and they're called short wool llamas or caras. Most of the time they're referred to as caras. And
how do you spell that?
In America, we spell it C-C-A-R-A.
Okay.
In North America or South America, in Peru, they're going to spell it K-A-R-A, which means without wool. And so the Inca bred these pack llamas for over 6,000 years. If you go to Peru and look at some of the caves and study some of the stuff they have there, they're actually carbon date llama drawings of over 7,000 years.
Wow.
And so the Inca culture had these llamas and specifically bred certain llamas for meat, certain llamas for wool, and certain llamas for packing. Well, the kind of the Taj Mahal of the the pillar in the community was if you owned llamas used for packing.
Really?
Yep. And the ruler of the Inca culture had 15,000 llamas, pack llamas or caras, when they were conquered. And the first thing that 15,000 caras, pack llamas. And when they conquered, the first thing the conquistadors did was kill the 15,000 llamas. And so that was kind of the beginning of the fall of the Inca civilization. But point being is that llamas were specifically bred for packing for thousands of years. It's simply in their DNA. And once you and we have just over 140 llamas now. And I've done my research and calculation and did a big project. It took me about 4 years, and I calculate there to be less than 4,000 caras in North America today.
Really?
And there's over 200,000 camelids, llamas and alpacas and all these things.
So out of the 200, what do you call them? Camelids? Because they're related to camels, right?
They're related to camels. So a lot of times, like a vet or people that are in the industry will call refer to them as a base population of camelids.
Okay.
Whether that's llamas or that's alpacas or it's a certain breed of llama. But 200,000 plus camelids in North America. Today.
And 4,000 of them are cara.
Yep.
Pack llamas.
Right around 4,000.
So you got 4,000 LeBron Jameses and 196,000 Randy Newbergs. No one's ever going to confuse me for LeBron James.
Ooh, I guess so.
I just can't, just to put that to rest. You know, I want people to understand. Okay. I don't think I'm like the LeBron James of the hunting world, but your llamas are, I mean, unbelievable athletes. I mean, with full loads, we saw them climbing over deadfall, going up nasty, slippery, wet, snowy, greasy slopes. It was such an eye-opener to me. I know you're tired of me hounding you. Hey, Beau, can you get llamas to here? Hey, Beau.
Can you do this? Can you do that?
So you've got 140. How many of them do you rent out?
52.
52 are available for rent, minus the 6 that I get next season.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 46 available for next season.
Yeah, and that number is going to continue to increase, you know, every year. We'll bring on, actually, that's not true. We're going to bring on 13 new ones this year. 13
new ones?
On top of our 52.
Okay, so you'll have 65 next year.
Yep.
So give or take the 5 or 6 that I'm going to rent for a good part of this season. So now your scarcity is you're back to this supply and demand thing.
Yeah.
You need to raise your fees. Beau's over here like, no, I'm not good at raising my fees.
I'm not good at it.
The accountant and Randy is like, Beau, you're giving this away. So we're going to be all over the map on llamas here. What if someone says, Beau, I want to rent your llamas? What's that package include, and how would they? I mean, you deliver them? Do they pick them up? What? If from the point I call you on the phone to when I bring your llamas home from the trip, or you pick them up, how does that work?
Sure, I call it a discovery period. So when you call me, I do my best to figure, okay, in a general sense, where are you going? What time of year are you going? How many people are you going with? You know, what are you anticipating? Are you hunting elk? Are you hunting deer? Okay, how many miles? Great. And so once we calculate that, and you kind of tell me a little bit more about your plan, and I kind of tell you a little bit more about llamas, we kind of draw up, okay, Randy, you need 2 llamas. Mm-hmm. And once we discover what you need, then we say, okay, how are you going to transport them? Let's say you're hunting close to Idaho Falls or in Wyoming somewhere, and we can deliver to almost any private land location, you know, whatever that means. Yeah. And let's say that, you know, it's easier for you to just drop by the house. I say, okay, so you're going to need 2 llamas. That's $50 a day per llama, and that includes...
That's ridiculous.
All their saddle, everything that they need, the scale, the brush, everything that they need, halter, lead ropes, stakeouts, everything. You just got to show up, and I'm going to take care of you.
They're fully equipped.
Fully equipped.
So, folks, he said $50 a day. By the time I'm done working him over, it's going to be more than $50 a day. That is so ridiculously cheap. Okay, let's go.
So, discovery period's over. We've got you figured out. Now we decide you're going to drive to our ranch location. And let's say you've never packed your llamas before.
Right.
So we want to teach you how to pack with them. We want to go through what we call Llama Clinic 101.
Yep.
It usually takes 3 to 4 hours. We have enough ground at our place that we can actually, you know, show you how to catch them, show you how to halter them. Let's put the harness over their nose and their head, and how to saddle them, how to work with them, pros and cons, answer all your questions, and actually we'll go on a hike with them. Mm-hmm. You, me, and a llama.
Okay.
We're going to go on a hike. We're going to show you how to load them in and out of the trailer, everything, and answer all your questions until the point that you feel comfortable. Usually takes between the time you get there and the time you leave 3 to 4 hours.
Okay. Sounds to me like we need a YouTube video about this.
Sounds great.
Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Marcus needs to come down here and film
the how-to.
Llama Intro 101 with Beau.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've done so many of them. It's very scripted now. You know.
Video? There's so many videos you've done?
No, so many clinics.
Clinics. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I enjoy the clinics because people, surprisingly, still people ask me questions I haven't heard before.
Really?
And I think it's intriguing to me.
Uh-huh.
So now we've done the clinic. You're at the ranch, and we decide, okay, Randy, do you need a trailer? Because we have lots of horse trailers we can rent you. They're $30 a day, and they weigh 2,000 to 2,500 pounds.
$30 a day for the trailer is all.
Yep. And we have the light plugs, the drop pitches, so everything works. And we send it on your way. Or you say, okay, Randy has a shell on his Nissan. If you guys haven't noticed that in his videos, let's say that you don't have that shell, and we throw a stock rack. It sticks out of the top of the bed, and we actually jump the llamas into the bed of your truck. 2 llamas will fit in almost any bed. Yeah. And away you go. Yeah. You're going to get lots of stairs driving down the freeway. But
you do. So after we left you, my buddy Wade down in Arizona, he brought his 2 llamas on an elk hunt with us.
Yeah.
And he not trailers them. He has a Toyota Tacoma with the stock rack you're talking about. And they lay down in the back. And I'm following him as we're driving in, and everybody sees these 2 llamas, big necks, laying in the back of his little Toyota Tacoma. The looks on their faces were hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
But so you have trailer options, which, again, that price has to increase too.
Okay.
So folks, in my other life, I'm a CPA. And part of my job is to make sure that people are maximizing their revenue. So I'm leaning on Beau that you got to quit giving this stuff away. And when he told me what the price was last year, I'm like, that's pitiful. That's criminal. I'm not Catholic, but I'm going to have to go to confession for stealing this from you if that's all you're going to charge me. So don't be saying prices, Beau, because I'm going to be I'm going to be nudging these prices along. And those of you listening, you better act soon before Beau changes his mind. All right. That disclaimer.
You should talk to my wife. She's really good at changing my mind and
all wives are good at changing our mind, right? Hey, honey, I'm going hunting today. Oh, you are, huh?
Yeah.
They didn't, right there, just the way they said it. Changed your mind, right?
Yep.
Okay. But anyhow, so that comes with the trailer. They can take off either with the trailer or if they don't have a topper shell like I do.
Stock rack, or we can do delivery.
Oh, you'll do delivery too.
Yep.
That's got you. Now, don't tell me that's free.
No, it's definitely not free.
Okay, all right.
We just charge per mile basically from our location.
Okay.
And we have, operating areas besides Idaho Falls that would become the location. Let's say, we have one in Helena, Montana.
Yeah.
Let's say that you're going to go somewhere around that area. So
Augusta or somewhere.
Augusta. Yeah. Yep. That would be the location that we would send people to. Okay. And same thing in Utah and in Wyoming. We have locations that are closer than just Idaho Falls.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably the one thing that we're trying to get out to people now is that they can, if they're coming to the West, more often than not, we have a location close to where they're hunting.
Yeah.
Within a couple hours for sure.
Yeah. Well, by the time we're done promoting you, Beau, you're going to need more than 65 llamas.
I'm working on it.
You need to get those llamas going.
Okay, you got it. We'll be breeding 40 females this spring.
Okay.
And what that means is, llamas have a gestation period of 11 and a half months typically.
Really? Wow.
And so we breed in the spring, and then next year,
they're born.
They're born. Yeah. And we try to. So we're going to breed 40 females this year, and we bred 37 last year.
Okay.
And I'm anticipating that we have 30 plus cria. That's what they call young llamas when they're born.
What are they called?
Cria. C-R-I-A. Cria.
Wow. Okay.
Like a spelling bee, Cria.
Yeah, I appreciate that you spell this stuff out, because for me, my mind would be...
That's how my mind works.
Okay,
so.
Good. We're on the same page there. So you'll have that many, and how long at what age do you bring them into the packing business?
So, they really don't start making money or generating income until typically 6 years old.
6, okay.
Yep. But they'll go out and do a lot of stuff before then. But trustworthy, proven, ready to rock and roll, 6 years old.
Okay. So you've got a huge investment in these by the time.
Absolutely.
How many of us would invest in a business asset knowing that it's going to be 6 years before it generates any money?
Not very many. Not very many. You got to be passionate about it,
Yeah. And that I can assure you folks that when you talk to Beau, whether it's on the phone, in person, in a camp, passion about the whole idea of llama use for hunting, you have a high level of passion for that, Beau.
I would surely hope so.
It comes across, definitely. So I've said, all right, Beau, I want a trailer. I'm going to head out. You're going to tell me good luck, see you on whatever day? Is that, or are am I going to have to check in with you?
No need to check in. You know, we rent out our inReach devices to people, and so they can communicate with us if they feel the need. Yep. Otherwise, you know, we've only ever had one real issue in, 6-7 years of doing this.
Yeah.
And I think it's not because we're really good business people or our people that are renting the llamas are super great, backcountry, knowledgeable type people that have been doing it for years. It's the llamas.
Yeah.
The llamas know the drill.
Yeah.
And if people simply follow the cardinal rules that we teach them, they're going to have a great trip.
Yeah.
I never ever doubt they're not going to have a great trip.
Yeah.
Something might go right and they're going to have some kind of adventure or, some cool story to come back and say, well, this happened and we figured out how to do this. Like, yeah, perfect. Great job. Yeah.
Well, your llamas, when the other part of Beau's business is he's doing summer pack trips. Because when we showed up in September, you told me that Marshall already had 500 miles of work that season, or some number like that.
Yep, exactly.
And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of hunting for September. And then you're like, no, Randy, he's been doing backcountry fishing and just tours and other stuff. Yep. So your llamas, they are already, it's not preseason when you pick them up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
they're already in playoff mode.
Yep, they're in playoff mode. Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Playoff mode.
But they are ready to go. And so if someone wanted to do one of your pack trips, same thing. Say they wanted to go backcountry fishing. That's the thing we didn't get to do up in the Wind Rivers. Everyone tells me it's some of the best backcountry fishing in North America.
Yeah, it's pretty outstanding.
And we didn't even bring a fishing rod.
Yeah, well, the lake was iced over almost.
Almost. So if we wanted to go back and do that in the summer, same drill?
Same drill. Yep, it's the exact same. And we're getting a lot of families, hunters that, I freaking love hunters. They're so funny, like, Beau, I want to hunt this new area in Wyoming in September, but I'm going to go scout in July, and I'm going to bring my wife and kids.
Right.
And so what they calling their wives and kids to go into their hunting area in July that they're going to hunt in September to scout,
right.
And they rent the llamas and they make it this big adventure, and it's awesome. They have a great camping trip.
Yeah. And
I really like that people are doing that, and I totally do stuff like that with my family, always conning my wife into going to hunting areas in the summer. And
Kirsten is her name, right?
Yep.
All right. So if she's listening to this podcast, you just spilled some of the beans, Beau.
No, she sees through it, man. So do all the other wives out there. They know.
That's right.
But that's something that's becoming really popular, which I love. I love families getting out in the backcountry, whether it's a 2-mile hike into a lake with a young family, or it's a 5-day, round loop trip, in the Wind Rivers, or hiking the CET, whatever. So that's becoming a big deal, and a lot of people are using it for backcountry fishing. There's a few groups of, backcountry enthusiasts that want to go fish these high mountain lakes, like in the White Clouds of Idaho,
right?
The Sawtooth, the Wind Rivers, early season. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just outstanding. I'm all about that. And then a lot of people are doing, rock climbing or mountaineering and need to get back somewhere and base camp for a few days, but have a ton of gear.
Right.
So that's the rental operation in the summer. But our big, operations that we do in the summer is the fully outfitted trips.
Okay.
Where we take people on, we provide the transportation, from the airport and hotel to, our trailhead. We provide all their meals, their backpacks, sleeping bags, tents, trekking poles, a guide, the trip itinerary, and we can go in Yellowstone, the Tetons out of Jackson Hole, the national parks are down in Utah. We have permits and operating permits in all these areas. And
so they just show up at the Idaho Falls Airport.
Or Jackson Hole.
Wherever.
Or Bozeman.
You pick them up, and they don't have to worry about anything until they just need to bring their boarding pass is about it.
Yep, and a few of their personal items, but the rest of it, They don't need any hiking gear, besides their personal items.
You provide tents, sleeping bags, everything, and you cook all the meals?
Yep, cook all the meals, trekking poles, yep, the whole thing.
Tell me that's more than $50 a day, please.
It is.
Because if that's not more than $50 a day, I'm hiring you for the entire season.
Yep, it's definitely more.
Okay. Okay.
And I really like that because we meet people from all over the world.
Yeah, I bet you do. Especially in the areas you mentioned of the greater Yellowstone area, the backcountries of Idaho, the Utah National Park areas. Are you down in like Zion and Bryce and Capitol Reef and all that?
Capitol Reef, yep, and Fish Lake and Dixie National Forest.
Okay. Those are places that I bet you encounter a lot of people who, how do I say it, haven't been exposed to someone who's as much of a hunting crazy as you are.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
So you get to be our ambassador, Beau.
Yep. And people, it's a big time, opportunity to talk to people, because, if I showed up as the guide on these trips, these summer trips, and wore, my Sitka camo,
yeah,
I mean, people would just start grilling me, and they take this, this offensive approach to our trip. So I don't do that. Yeah. I just wear normal hiking clothes or Sitka in solid, right?
Yeah, right.
And then we start talking about it, and if we're having protein, a lot of times I'll take, elk or deer or, buffalo or something that somebody's harvested or I've harvested on these trips. And then people are like, oh, this is lean, organic meat. This is awesome,
Yeah.
And then we start talking about, conservation, public lands and the opportunity that my family makes a living off of public lands by outfitting.
Yeah.
And we also feed our family, though we don't need to. We have means to do it other ways. Yeah. This is how we choose to.
Right.
My wife the other day, she's like, we don't have any elk burger left because she gave it all away.
Oh.
And I'm like, we are not buying meat. And the thought of it just like turmoil inside my chest. Like, I am not doing this. So I called my little brother. It's like, give me some of your elk meat.
So do you need some elk meat?
I'm set now.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, on our Wyoming trip, when the blizzard came and we were afraid we were going to get snowed out.
Oh, yeah.
And because we were leaving right away for another trip and I didn't want to miss that day, I probably pulled the pin sooner than I had to, but I still have that cow tag.
Oh.
So if you're lacking elk meat, I'm not lacking meat because my son shot a moose this year.
Yeah.
And I've shot 2 antelope, a whitetail. I'm not lacking meat, but if you were lacking meat, we could probably go on a range, fill in that Wyoming elk tag. It's open until January 31st.
I would definitely do that.
Just throwing that out there.
I would do that. I've been bottling my meat. Once I get the freezer full,
yeah, I've
been bottling it and then doing, salamis and stuff. And canned meat, bottled meat, it's outstanding. I finally got my wife hooked.
Really?
Yeah, lasts for shelf life 5 years,
Yeah.
Easy to cook, super fast to prepare. We've been building a fence at our ranch.
Yeah.
And that's how we've been feeding everybody.
Okay.
Bottled elk meat.
Really?
Yeah, for lunch.
We might have to come and do a video on that also because I've never had bottled meat.
It's especially if you know how to do it and you kind of have your favorites.
Right.
If I were to give you one of my favorite, recipes or whatever, you'd be very happy, very pleased. And then you don't have to have freezer space. And I did it all through college because you don't have freezer space.
Yeah.
You 5 guys are sharing this little tiny, 1 foot by 2 foot space. You're like, where are we going to put an elk?
Right.
So use the bottling method.
So I diverted us from the topic at hand.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, I'm trying to remember where we were.
We're talking about hunting and taking people on these summer trips.
Those are your summer trips, yeah. So you do that. If somebody listening said, hey, that sounds cool, I'd like to take my family to Yellowstone or, the Jedediah or what all the cool places. They just get a hold of Beau, and is this the time of year when you're booking those trips?
Yep. Yeah, well, we book starting like October for the next season. So October, November, December, all the way into the early spring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if your pricing on that is as ridiculously low as your pricing on everything else, folks, you should take your family with Beau. So you must have guides. You can't be doing all this with all these llamas.
No,
you got some really high quality guides that will lead groups.
Yeah,
in each of these places.
I don't brag well, I probably brag more than I should, but
You
definitely
don't brag at all.
make it a point not to. But our guides are really outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very seldom could you have an employee or know of a company that you could recommend and say, yes, go and do this.
Yeah.
If I were to recommend my best friend or my family, I would say, okay, if you're not going to go with me, go with this guide. And we have guides that are like that. So people, they have such a great time. And the llamas are 25% of it. Yeah. The experience in coming on the trip in the country is 50% of it, and the guide is the other 25%.
Okay.
And sometimes the guide can be 30-40% of the experience. Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're almost natural historians.
They are just spectacular. The interpretation of the flora, the fauna, the history, their cooking, these exotic meals that they plan and prepare.
You told me you made a birthday cake in the backcountry for Lantani's
daughter, yeah. I actually looked at the picture last night and I sent it to Land via email. I was like, Land, remember this?
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that was pretty
cool.
good when you can cook a birthday cake in the backcountry.
Fresh, yeah. It was. My wife helped me dream that one up. That was fun.
Huh. So that's just, to me, folks. So backing up, I'm already looking at Wyoming, Arizona, Nevada, Utah application season. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, and Marcus and Michael, my production crew, can confirm this, that the places that were possibilities when we applied last year is a much smaller list than what our possibilities of where we will apply this year because of your llamas.
Cool.
Absolutely. Between extension of geographic possibilities and extension of my health possibilities, llamas have extended my backcountry elk hunting career by at least 10 years. At least 10. And
that's awesome.
No, it just, and I'm sure it comes, and people have told me when they've watched our YouTube videos on that hunt, they're like, Randy, you have this look and this enthusiasm, like this is real. This is a game changer for you. And I tell them, yeah, it is. I'm that sincere about how it is. And since then, we always have the person who's like, well, I used llamas, or my brother's cousin's coworker has llamas, and there's all these rumors out there. They're incorrigible and they're spitting and whining and blah, blah, blah. And maybe you brought your 7 most behaved llamas. I don't know. Maybe you told them, if you don't behave right on TV, you're not going to get to pack anymore this year. I don't know what you did, but I could not believe how highly trained they were, how gentle, docile, and low maintenance they were. So a daily, let's just walk through maybe a daily or a weekly maintenance schedule is for those llamas. Because when we were back there, it's like, I've been with guys with horses, and I understand why people love horses. I mean, they're big, they can carry a lot. Yeah. But I look at the maintenance side of horses. And I look at how many people wreck with horses every year. And in some of the places I go, I'm not riding a horse up and down some of that stuff. And people are like, well, just walk them. Well, I get that.
Right.
But I've seen people have some pretty serious horse wrecks where it's not really bad country. So that's nothing against horses. Part of that is my complete ignorance of horses. They know I don't like they know I don't like being on their back. Somehow they can read that. Is that true? I mean, you've been around horses all your life.
Animals have amazing ability to sense things like that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
If I had horses and I hunted backcountry with horses, either the horse would die of neglect because I don't know how to take care of them, or I would die because I'm such a nervous Nelly on top of them. They run me underneath limbs and up against trees, and the horse owner is like, get control of that thing. I'm like, yeah, tell me that this thing weighs 1,800 pounds and this is where he wants to go.
Oh, funny.
Don't have that problem with your llamas. At least the 7 well-behaved ones I saw.
Well, you say that, and I'm just like, well, here's something a little piece of the puzzle that you might not know is that I brought 2 llamas that have never been on a commercial pack trip before.
Yeah, of 2 of the 7.
2 of the 7.
Yeah. With Tokyo?
Nope.
No.
Jacoby and Doc Holiday.
Doc Holiday. Yeah, I want Doc, man. Doc and Marshall.
Doc's just a 4-year-old, and we didn't put this on the YouTube, and I don't even know if I told you, but Doc had never, ever seen a dead animal before. Yeah. And he packed out Marcus's elk.
Right.
He never seen one on the ground. He never smelled the meat. He never smelled the blood. I mean, never.
Right.
And so what you saw on camera was, and this is for livestock people, horse people, is an animal that's never seen a dead animal or never packed meat before, and that's how they responded. I mean, you didn't even know. You remember him going up and smelling it, trying to figure out what's this going on. You know, didn't even really care.
Right. So a little background though. Your family thinks you're nuts because they're all horse people.
100%.
You grew up in a horse world, so it's not like you're trying to pit the llama world against the horse world.
No, absolutely not.
You have, compared to our listeners, you've got more horse experience than probably 95% of them.
Yeah, I mean, we rode horses every day.
Yeah.
You know, in the winter, in the summer, in the spring, in the fall, with the cattle, with the rodeo, with the outfitting of the hunting. I mean, all the time. Horses, mules, half drafts, the whole program.
So I just provide that background so that people don't think, oh, Beau's here to bang on horses.
No, and I respect horses a lot, you know, and I see them for what they are.
Yeah.
But even my dad, when I was growing up, we'd be up in the Wellsville Mountain Range and, you know, coming out of, you know, Moss Rock Canyon or something. And I'd be walking my horse and he'd look back and he'd say, what are you doing? I was like, I'm walking. Get on that horse. Horses are meant to be rode, you know? And I was like, I just want to walk. I just always would rather walk.
Yeah.
And it drove my family, especially my dad, nuts, you know? And it's just always been who I am.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so a couple of things that then come to mind I say this horses versus llamas, not because I want to pit one against the other, but people are kind of familiar. A lot of people at least have some general idea of what's required to take care of a horse on a hunt. Some of the horror stories we hear about, boy, if you don't shoot near that horse. Yeah. All hell's going to break loose. Or, you know, we can put camp on this horse, but we can't put any dead meat on him or stuff like that.
This or that. This one can't be rode, and this one can, and this one's can only be rode, and this one can only be packed.
Right. Yeah. So we leave the trailhead, and I'm like, how did you fit that much stuff in that truck and that trailer, Beau?
Yeah, we loaded it up, didn't we?
Yeah. So we got 7 llamas, and I got a smile like a ripple on a slop pail, man. It is from side to side. I am walking, leading these llamas. I am thinking to myself, Randy, you have just hit the jackpot, man. If you would have offered me the winning lottery ticket or that week with those llamas, I'd take that week with those llamas. And it's kind of this interaction with them where, you know, it's like a really good dog. You know, you go out pheasant hunting or duck hunting and your dog does great. You can't get enough of being around that dog. Well, that's how it was with these llamas. I'm like, they're just kind of purring and they're looking at things while they're walking along and everything's going smooth. We see ATVs, no problem. We see other critters on the landscape, no problem. We get back there, we set up our camp. They've been eating not the whole way in there, but they eat just what's on the landscape. You don't have to bring weed-free hay like in most of the West here. If you have horses and you haven't been doing this, people, you're supposed to certified weed-free hay to keep the invasive weed species away from the West. But the llamas, they just eat whatever's there.
Yep. You know, we had a lot of snow where we were at.
Right.
Day 1, there was so much feed. Day 2 and 3, and 4, they had to work for it because of the snow load.
The snow, yeah.
Yep. And they all did just fine. You know, their body temperatures were fine. They were eating plenty good. And, you know, we tried to put them in spots where there's, you know, a little bit less snow or whatever, but that's kind of part of the maintenance, you know. Yeah. And you saw, I mean, we got to camp and we set up the llamas, staked them out. They were way happy. None of them drank water that night.
Right.
And in 3 days, 7 llamas drank 1 gallon of water. Granted.
So each or?
Total.
Total.
Yep.
In though 7 llamas among them drank 1 gallon of water.
Among them drank 1 gallon of water, and a lot of that's due to the moisture that they were getting off of the vegetation because of the rain and snow. But typically, I would expect about 3 or maybe 4 gallons in 3 days with that many animals on a hunt like that if they didn't have the moisture. So, yeah, it's a game changer. You just don't need to do that. And I tell guys, I say, well, I honestly think that llamas are, take my bias out. And if you're a backpack hunter and you go into the backcountry and you're camping high on a ridge, you usually can pack enough water for maybe 2 days.
Right.
Food, water, the whole deal. And then you got to go get water.
Right.
And you got to spend time to go get it, hike down wherever it's at, and then you have to purify it some way if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, llamas, with 2 llamas, you can pack enough water in to last 4, if not 5 days for one guy. Wow. So you camp on that high ridge like the backpack hunter. You hunt for 4 or 5 days. You never have to get water. You don't have to filter it. You don't have to go get it.
Because you brought it in on the llamas.
Because you brought it in on the llamas. And they'll carry, 9-10 gallons apiece. And then you get a hunt to the last day and then bring your game out. So the backpack hunter now has 20-25% more hunting time than he did before.
Right, at least that much more time.
And then there's the energy that he saves.
Right.
Or I should get there's female backpack hunters. I should say.
Oh, there are. Right. He or she.
Yeah. So anyway.
So we leave opening morning. You said, all right, we're bringing Doc and we're bringing Marshall
with us.
Right. And I'm like, those 2 are going to carry an elk. And you're like, oh yeah. I'm like, all right. So we go there right at daylight. You tie them off, kind of down and behind us a little bit.
Yep.
Well, where does the elk come in from? Behind us. And I'm worried that, we're going to be shooting not towards them, but
in that direction.
In a general direction where a lot of horses I know, if you did that, you'd be looking for them in the next county.
Yeah.
And the elk comes in. Marcus shoots. And I look over at your 2 llamas. So if Marcus is shooting at the noon on the clock, the llamas were over at about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And down a little bit underneath us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 150 yards away?
Yeah.
100 yards away?
Yeah, maybe just about 100.
Okay. And I look over after Marcus shoots, and the llamas are just sitting there grazing on whatever they were. It was like they hadn't heard it. They hadn't, and nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, they're just deaf as I am.
And with bigger ears.
Yeah. But we go over there, we get the llamas, we go up, we find the blood trail, and Marcus's elk is laying there. And your llamas walk up and start sniffing it. No rodeo, no whinnying and carrying on and stomping.
Yeah, just silent ninjas ready to pack meat out.
Yeah. Tie them off. They sit there the whole time while we're quartering and field dressing. We stay there the whole day, hoping we're going to get another elk. And that night, those 2 llamas packed that whole elk back to camp.
Yep.
That was amazing.
And that was Doc's first pack out.
Really?
Yep.
He acted like he'd been there and done that before.
Done it 1,000 times. That's still amazing me, the llamas. All that stuff, hopping into the trailer, packing out meat. It's amazing that they'll simply just act like veterans, especially if they see another one do it. It's impressive.
Really? Mm-hmm. That a lot of that is follow the leader kind of.
Yeah.
Learn
if
by
you can do it, I can do it.
In the world of Western cowboys, hold my beer and watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we brought 7 of them. 2 of them had never been on a trip before. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean they've been with me and been trained, but never had been on something where it mattered. They hadn't been on renting trips or outfitted trips, and so for me it was kind of like another level of, okay, we're going to go do this. And my wife's like, why are you doing that? I was like, well, honestly, all the other ones are on rent. This is all we got. And so I was like, we'll see how this goes. I expect to get things, but there's still part of you that's a little nervous, know, because they haven't proven it to you before.
Right.
So you can't say that they're trail proven or they're tested, because you don't know.
Yeah.
So that was a good test.
Well, it was impressive. So we're doing all this to kind of give you the feeling of what the daily maintenance and everything else is with llamas. So we get them back to camp. We hang the meat far from camp because we're in grizzly country. Mm-hmm. You go and stake them out, and every day we'd move their stakes a little bit so there'd be new feed for them.
Yeah.
But it was, I could not believe how low maintenance it was. And then I remember one morning when I get up, it's, we're kind of getting ready, and we're running later than I'd like to be, but we're hunting close to camp. And it's snowing like crazy, and I look, and they're just laying there. And there's these mountains of snow on top of them. They look like little snow figurines out there.
Yeah.
Is their wool that good of insulation that the snow won't melt? I mean, it just stacked up on top of them.
Stacked up on top of them. Yeah, it is. It's really impressive how it works.
Huh.
And none of them were shivering. They're all just hunkered down chewing their cud.
Right.
And processing that cud helps them stay warm.
Oh, really?
Yep. Keeps the ruminant warm.
Huh. So that's the internal furnace.
That's the internal furnace, yep.
And they can, I could not believe they were eating pine needles. They were eating bark. They were eating grasses. They were eating aspen leaves. Any place we stopped, they'd look around like, yeah, let me try this. And they just start chewing away.
I have a friend that I sold llamas to, a real good friend of mine, Thomas Baumeister.
In Helena.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he firmly believes that llamas, the kickback for them is all of the variety that they get to eat in the backcountry. Sagebrush and pine cones and needles and bark and aspen and this and willows. He's just like, that's what it is. That's why they like it.
Oh, well, that's different than horses.
Yeah.
Horses, you better have some grasses or you're bringing in your own weed-free hay.
Right.
Which, just that's a lot to haul in.
It is.
And to me, to see how I expected this high maintenance operation. That's why when I looked in the trailer and I saw 7 of them, I'm like, we're going to spend all of our time taking care of animals. And it turned out we spent no time taking care of them.
How much time a day do you think that we spent just dealing with the llamas?
Well, you do most of that, so it's hard for me to guess, but I would say 15 minutes a day. Moving them, watering them. On the days that they worked hard, you gave them 3 or 4 of those little rice pellets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was it.
That was it. I would say that's very accurate for the morning and the evening care. Yep. Just shy of 10 minutes in the morning and just shy of 10 minutes in the evening.
Yeah, it was not much. So we're talking about llamas and grizzly bears. How do your llamas, because all these places that we've been talking about are endemic grizzly bear terrain. Not all. I mean, Utah.
Most of it.
It's not. But we're talking western Wyoming, Montana, some of
Idaho.
Grizzly bears. How do they handle grizzly bears?
That's a good question. I get that a lot, and I think that no animal handles a grizzly bear well.
Yeah.
Grizzly bears do whatever they want.
Right.
Nobody dictates what they do. So face to face, llamas are not going to do good with a grizzly bear. However, I think humans with packing with llamas can be proactive.
Yeah.
And do what we did. Do your bear hangs. And if you're in severe grizzly bear country, let's say the thoroughfare, having a simple electric fence that you get at Murdoch's or Cow Ranch and make, real cheap, and putting that around your tent and your llamas when you're gone is a great way to avoid bears. And then we always bring in a radio, battery operated little radio.
Yeah.
And when we leave camp, we turn that on.
Oh, really?
And that noise seems to help out a lot.
Okay.
And then other than that, I mean, we've had 2 encounters this year in Yellowstone where bears came into our camp and dug up the fire pit that people had left before us. They'd left cooked a bunch of food and bacon and left it in the fire pit.
Yeah.
And they came in, and Yellowstone ended up evacuating us on those outfitted trips. But
when you say evacuated us, it's not like they came and rescued you.
They said, get out of here.
They just said,
go.
Evacuate.
Yeah.
Grab your stuff and get out of here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what happened. And so the llamas, over time, you know, not that they get used to the bears, but they know when they're in danger and when they're not.
Yeah.
And these bears came in the first camp, and the llamas all did this alarm call.
Right.
And it's kind of like a loud horse whinny kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we were in the Tetons a couple years ago, and we had one of our guests video a bear that, you know, just imagine this lake. We're camped by it, and there's, you know, trees around half of the lake, like a half circle. And a bear comes out of one side of the lake and sees the llamas, and they all start doing their whinny, and then he runs all the way across the other side of the lake and runs away. The whole time running until he got to the timber. And when one llama does that alarm call, then they all are alert and know what's going on.
Their ears
Yep.
are such indicators of what they're thinking.
So all the ears are pointing forward, their eyes are pointing forward, they're standing nice and tall, neck stretched out, and they're doing this alarm call. So we've got a video of that on the website for people to take a look at. But llamas will almost always let you know when a bear's around.
Okay.
And when they start doing that alarm call, they feel threatened.
Yeah.
And so, you know, pay attention. And they've actually, you know, we were out on that trip that you were on, and Marcus and I were at the lake looking for elk, and we came back, and an elk had walked within 10 or 15 feet of one of the llamas.
Right.
And investigated.
That was on the scouting day.
That was on the scouting day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's a lot of times elk are really curious about llamas.
Oh,
and
really?
Bears are not curious to llamas, from my experience. In fact, this year in Wyoming, I was at the top of an avalanche chute, and there were some dead cows at the bottom of it.
Moo cows?
Moo cows.
Okay.
Yep. And that a bear was eating on.
Whoa.
And he could see my llamas, and I'm on top looking, here's my llamas, here's a bear, 150 yards away, and I'm watching this interaction. And my llamas look at him and keep eating, look at him and keep eating. The bear turns and spins towards the llamas. Boom, alarm call. You know, they start doing it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go all the way down this avalanche chute, 20-something hundred feet, and, you know, discourage this bear from attacking my llamas. And then the bear just runs the other direction as fast as he can. And I was like, oh, you know. And I was on the chase for this mule deer, so I was beyond grateful that the llamas pulled their alarm call. I was waiting. I'm like, you idiots, start doing that, you know. Look at them, start doing the alarm call. So I didn't ever. You don't get to see that very often. Right. But seeing the llamas, see the bear. But once the bear turned and faced them, they all of a sudden, you know, gave their alarm call. But otherwise, they weren't going to do anything. They weren't going to say anything. They, you know, sometimes they're like your children. They don't do what you want them to do, you know. But worked out. So that's my experiences with bears and llamas.
They were the most well-behaved children I've ever hunted with. Let's put it that way then, Beau.
Okay.
But so mule deer. We'll continue to interact or interject llama anecdotes here, but Wyoming mule deer.
Yeah.
You hunted this year. You hunted Idaho mule deer this year.
Yep.
Beau.
And Montana.
And Montana. Beau is, like I said earlier, as crazy about mule deer hunting as I am about grouse. Maybe crazier. The winter of 2016-17 in Idaho, to some degree, maybe northern Utah, western Wyoming, northwest Montana, was a 1 in 30, 50 year winter as far as snowfall and cold.
It was.
Did you see the effect out there while you were hunting this year?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. To the point that I'm very discouraged about, you know, the future. And, you know, I'm optimistic about some things, but I just really want to know what the game managers and fishing game, what the response is going to be,
to these tough numbers.
You know, what proactive measures are they going to do, if any?
Right.
Because it's alarming to me. And
it is. In
Idaho, I hunted 4 different units, you know, game management units, and man alive, it's bad. It's really bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's alarming to me, and to the point that I'm not going to even hunt Idaho next year
And you're a resident.
Yep, totally take it out of my arsenal. I just refuse to go out and try to harvest a mature mule deer when they're more than ever so few and far between.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you went to your normal places this year.
And a couple new ones.
And you've been going there for years. You know these better than anybody. And you did not see much for deer.
No, it was pitiful. Yeah, it was terrible.
Huh.
And
Beau's not saying this to try to discourage people from hunting his places, quote unquote, places you hunt.
Right.
Because you've always been very open with information. But you're not the first Idaho guy who's told me that this year. And I've talked to some serious Idaho hunters. A couple of them have stumbled into mature bucks and they've shot mature bucks. And that's great. But they've all said, the numbers that I saw that I had a chance to look over was really, really obvious that the winter had taken a toll.
Yeah. You know, my brother-in-law and I were on a hunt, and we hunted many, many, many days and found a magnificent mule deer, just shy of 190 inches. Wow. And, one of the most spectacular mule deer that I've seen in Idaho due to horn configuration, but probably would take the token for the best mule deer that I've ever been part of a harvest of in my life. And I would attribute that to how many deer we were seeing. We saw 4 bucks.
In all those days?
In all those days.
Wow.
2-3 weeks of hunting. 4 bucks in this unit. And, they're all very small. And then we found this guy. Yeah. And we hunted and hunted. The day that we shot that elk, we hiked 18 miles on the feet.
Wow.
Searching and searching for sign and glassing, and it was the last resort. And we finally turned up this buck, and that buck, I feel like the big bucks are rare.
Yeah.
But a big buck after a bad winter, in the unit we were hunting was even more rare.
Yeah.
And so it's a real token of effort.
Yeah.
And I just, after all the experiences, I just can't believe where the deer herds are at. It's discouraging,
Huh.
If my niece or nephew who hunted this year for elk for the first time, and they said, I want to go deer hunting next year, Uncle Beau, I was like, no, I don't think so. We're not gonna partake. One, because I don't think we can find you a good mature mule deer.
Yeah.
And two, I guess I don't think we should, take those deer out of the gene pool. We need them in a bad way.
Right now.
Yeah, we'll go hunt antelope or elk or something, instead.
Wow. If you're seeing that, Beau, that tells me, at least in this part of Idaho, it was tough.
Yeah.
And the interesting part for Idaho is you guys, even this year, if you wanted to, you could have went and bought
2 tags.
2 buck tags.
Yeah.
The first one is at a resident price. The second one, you have to pay the non-resident price, correct?
Correct.
Wow. That's still a lot of exploitation of the resource if it's in tough shape.
It is.
Huh.
But you used to be able to take youth out and harvest a young buck, which is great.
Right.
With pretty simple logistics, you can make it happen in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Typically. Or just a chance.
Right.
I don't know if you could promise that anymore.
Really?
Which is not good. Because we need new hunters.
Right. Yeah, there's research out there that says when you have crashes of a species that is kind of your core introductory or your core species that family traditions are built around, that you lose a segment of hunters every time that happens.
Yeah.
And that would not be good if that is one of the casualties of that hard winter is Idaho loses that window of people who would have got introduced to deer hunting just because there's so few of them.
Right.
Huh.
Or they hate it because they hiked around for so many days, never saw one.
Yeah. Yeah. So Western Wyoming, you hunted that this year. Was it?
It was the same. I mean, truth be told, found a couple really great bucks, and I was lucky enough to harvest one on the few days I had to hunt in Wyoming. And the weather was so poor.
Yeah.
September in Wyoming. So
snow and
snow and fog. In fact, I had this one buck that I'd been chasing all summer, during the scouting season, and I finally found him about 10 days into the season. I'm barreled down on this guy, and the fog moves in. And I'm like, okay. And then it clears, and then it moves in, and then it clears, and then it gets dark. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Really?
And I had to hike out that night. That was it. That was the end of the hunt for me, for another week or so. Anyway, so the weather was terrible, and the quality of animals that I saw, or quality and quantity, was nowhere near normal.
Really?
It was not par for the course by any means. So that was discouraging, big time. But the number of hunters exceeded what I'd ever seen before.
Really?
And hunting and guiding and outfitting in this area for many years. I'd never seen so many hunters. And what I think is happening is people that have a tag are making it more of a familiar event.
Yeah.
So more people are in the backcountry trudging around scouting for the next year when they're hunting with their family for this year. And
right.
I think that's what I talked to a lot of people at trailheads and stuff that's what they were doing.
Oh, okay.
And people that had been hunting this area historically, people that I know had shot big bucks didn't even see deer.
Really?
And so some of the deer have changed patterns and simply just weren't there.
So I'm a guy sitting on maximum deer points in Wyoming. What you're saying is don't burn them in these areas right now. Maybe sit on them for a while or burn them somewhere else.
And a friend of mine chased a buck that ended up scoring 239, I think, in 7/8.
Wow.
And he didn't end up harvesting it. Someone else did.
Oh.
And so people's like, there's still big bucks out there.
Yeah.
Right? And so holding your points, it's like this, what do I do? I think I can still find a big buck, but how hard is it going to be? And I'm a statistics guy, right?
Yeah.
I like to put my eggs in the basket that's a really big basket,
Right.
has really good chances. Hunting mule deer in the rut, better chance you're going to kill a big buck than October 10th.
Oh, for sure.
So if you have a better hunt, do it. Don't put in for Wyoming.
Well, there's some guys I know who are like you, who I always gauge what their observations are before I apply. I'm like, hey, Bryce, hey, Beau, hey, what do you see? What did you see last year? And if they tell me, oh, it was really good, I pay a lot of attention to those people because I know they're spending 80 to 100 days a year in the backcountry. If they say, ooh, I'd wait a couple of years, I'm probably waiting a couple of years.
Yeah.
Huh.
I keep telling people, it's like, we are in one of the greatest times in my lifetime for elk hunting.
We are. It is the good old days.
Go hunt elk in every state possible.
Right now.
And rent my llamas, please.
Speaking of which, you were telling me, and so we're snowbound in this tent. We had went out and tried to hunt that day, and visibility was about 50 yards. So that night we get back to camp. We're like, man, if it keeps snowing like this, what are we going to do? And so we get into the topic of, hunting and all this stuff. And you've got Marcus so fired up about going elk hunting in one of these two states, I'm not going to say which, where you were searching far and wide for mule deer, not finding many, but you told him about some remarkable basin where the elk were just going crazy.
Year after year.
Really?
I've never seen a hunter in there. Oh. I'm just like, and I've got all these Wyoming points, and I need to get rid of them so I can go hunt that place,
So now you just told people it was in Wyoming.
Oh.
Right.
It is. Wyoming's amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. But it's in a general area, you said.
General area.
Wow. Marcus he's like, I'm just applying in a general area this year. I'm like, well, how are you going to get in there? Well, aren't we going to get some llamas from Beau? I'm like, well, you might want to break out your pocketbook, buddy. But so no, your point is there's still a lot of great hunting to be had, even in years when the winter hammers them. And we thought that Montana was going to have this same effect, But last winter, about early January, all of a sudden our winter moderated.
Yeah.
And we didn't get any more snow. It opened up. The temperatures were good. I hunted eastern Montana this year again. And I know people from Montana, especially eastern Montana, are like, Newberg, quit talking about this place. But I talk about every place we hunt. You know, it's not like I just pick on one place. But right now, and this is just to give comparative cycles, Montana has not had a really hard winter, with the exception of northwest Montana. They have in this period I'm going to talk about. We haven't had a really hard winter since the winter of 2010, 2011. So we have a lot of 4, 5, and some 6-year-old deer right now. And that's probably how you guys were in Idaho and Wyoming before that hard winter of 16, 17.
Exactly.
And I pay attention to that stuff. So Colorado right now is doing pretty good. They've had some spots that have had some hard winters.
Right.
But overall, Colorado, if I'm a mule deer hunter, I'm looking to Colorado. I'm looking to Utah. I'm looking to Nevada. They've had way moderate winters compared to Idaho and Wyoming. And somehow, Montana being further north and a little bit further east escaped that brutal thing. Now, this year in our valley in southwest Montana, we've had winter like you can't believe in November. But the last week, it got up in the 60s. And the snow started retreating up the mountain. So we won't know what Montana winter looks like. And my worry is we're going to have, we're due for another one of those brutal winters that knock deer numbers down, especially the mature buck numbers down by 50, 60%.
That's so much.
And that's, they're just susceptible to it because they come out of the rut in tough shape. Range conditions are not always what you need it to be for them to recover.
Yeah.
Maybe they come into the season in tough condition, then they rut and they're right on the fringe, and then you get a bad winter and
done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So right now, Montana is basking in the benefit of not having had a hard winter for 6 years. Now, if we get a killer winter this year, we're going to be in the same boat you guys are in here in Idaho.
Yeah. And not a good place to be.
No, it's frustrating. But I would, and when that happens, I do shift my focus more towards elk. But I can tell everybody that I will, barring a terrible winter, I'm going to be back in eastern Montana next November.
Absolutely. So will I.
Oh, will you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. But you need some perspective because you live in like where big mule deer grow. This intersection of Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming. Those are big mule deer.
Big mule deer.
What you see in Montana, those aren't big mule deer. As a general rule, we have nice mule deer if you hunt hard, but not big mule deer.
Yeah.
But we shoot them with a rifle in the rut.
I know. So fun.
So fun. Doesn't do much for the age class. You look to the north of us, Alberta and Saskatchewan shoot record book mule deer. You look to the west of us, Idaho, all conditions being the same as Montana, they shoot record book mule deer.
Yeah.
You look to the south of us, Wyoming, same thing. What do all of those places have in common that Montana doesn't? They don't have a general rifle season in November on mule deer.
Across most of the state.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much hope for a 2.5-year-old mule deer
no way.
On November 15th when a bunch of people are walking around with rifles in hand.
You're absolutely right. It's crazy, honestly. I keep telling you, I was like, look, Montana one day is going to stop doing this. You better get up there and enjoy this while it's there.
And so when you're cropping off that many of the 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5-year-old bucks because they're just stupid in November.
Yeah.
That's less that make it to 4, 5, 6, or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And the game managers say, well, guess what? We can't stockpile them because we are a place that has bad winters and that's going to knock them down anyhow. So I may as well let hunters have them along the way. And there's probably some
truth to that.
To that. But I tell people who are coming from places that manage for a more diverse age class by not hunting in the rut, when you get to Montana, you're going to see deer. Just don't expect to see 180-inch deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like hen's teeth in Montana.
Yeah, I've seen one approaching that, but never seen one that big in Montana.
And maybe that's part of why I'm not as much of a mule deer crazy as you are. I accept it that, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Yep.
You get to see deer.
You're going to pass up $5 that look like the one you shot.
Yeah.
And you don't know why you shot the one you did, but you did.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's like, I'm getting close to the end of the hunt here. This was a good hunt today, a good stock. I'm going to shoot this one, even though I've seen 5 others that look just like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people ask me, well, Randy, where's your whitetail problem come from? Because I've lived in Montana. This was my 26th season, I believe.
Wow.
In Montana.
That's good.
And I think I've shot in Montana 4 or 5 mule deer. I'd have to look on my wall. Every other tag I've filled with whitetail.
Whitetail?
Yeah. Including this year.
Awesome.
On public land. I would rather shoot a really, relative to everything else, is a really nice public land whitetail. This buck I shot this year is probably a 130-inch buck.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get into scores, but I would rather do that than to shoot a 3.5-year-old mule deer that I would love to see get to be 4.5 or 5.5. I don't have any problem with people who shoot the 2.5 or 3.5-year-old mule deer. You know what? If that's your gig, do it.
Yep.
But for me, I just get a little more intrigued and excited about. I think the buck I shot this year was probably 4.5 or 5.5. I'd rather try shoot a whitetail on public land that's 4.5 or 5.5 than a 2.5 or 3.5-year-old mule deer.
I'm exactly the same way.
So that's kind of my problem, or explains my problem with whitetails versus mule deer. No, I'm not making judgments one way or the other. I just love hunting deer, but for me, that's how I end up with so many whitetails. And I hope everybody doesn't realize how many nice public land whitetail we have in Montana, because there would be a lot more people hunting them. You Midwestern guys, I get why you're excited about hunting mule deer or hunting whitetail in your home state, and I'm excited about anybody hunting their home state species.
Yeah.
But if they found out the whitetail hunting in northern Idaho, in Montana, in eastern Wyoming, and how much public land there really is to hunt those, we'd be overrun with these Midwest whitetail hunters.
Yeah.
So maybe I should quit talking about it.
Yeah, they'd extend their season. Their wives would be more divorced in the country.
Bo's going to hold me accountable for the higher divorce rate among whitetail hunters. No. My buddy Mark Kenyon, he produces the Wired to Hunt podcast. And I've kind of got him pretty well addicted to the Montana whitetail gig. He already had the addiction, and was exploring new territory, which I think is so cool. And if you don't listen to it, listen to Mark's podcast. He's a great guy. But he's now started doing podcasts about his hunts in Montana. I'm trying to get him to Wyoming. But I don't want him to get divorced either.
Yeah. The whitetail I have been getting a new fascination with whitetail.
Yeah. They're getting quite a few of them even here in southeast Montana. Or southeast Idaho. Yeah, they are an opportunity species because they rebound far quicker than mule deer.
They really do. And when you see, it's like when you see a big bull, a big mule deer buck, or a big whitetail buck, the feeling for me is like, wow, that it took that deer a long time to get that way.
Yeah.
And that, he's special.
Yeah.
And when you see that, regardless of what the species is, it's pretty remarkable.
It is.
My heart starts beating the same.
Yeah, it does. I told you we almost called you. If we would have had cell coverage, we would have called you to pack out that moose.
Oh, I would have loved that.
You're closer to where we shot that moose in Montana than I am.
Really?
How long would it take you to get there from here?
Just shy of 2, hour and a half to.
Right. So it was, for me, it's like 2.5 hours, but I drive slow. So if we would have had coverage, we're like, we need to call Beau and get him here.
How far in was it?
It was about a little over a mile.
That's plenty far to pack out a moose.
Yeah. Through that boggy, swampy crap. But the reason we thought about you is you said your llamas had never packed a moose. So we thought, oh, we want to be the quote unquote original. The original moose that Beau Llamas packed the moose with.
Yeah, I've never seen a moose on the ground before.
Oh, really?
Nope.
You know how when you've hunted deer all your life and then you see a mature bull elk on the ground, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? Yeah. A moose is just that next step from an elk, kind of like what a deer step up is to an elk. A moose is like that same step up. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm glad there's 4 of us today.
Yeah. Wow.
But
one day.
What got me thinking about that is when we were there, we saw 3 whitetail bucks in those willows.
Really?
That one of them had this really funky, cool, forked out back G2. Like, that's an old buck. That's a 5.5-year-old buck.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So I need to figure out how to go back there next year and find that guy.
Oh, yeah.
If he survives another winter.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you live close to some good whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
Also.
You know, most people can get to good whitetail country pretty easy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, tags are easier to draw.
Yeah.
They can sustain a greater harvest or exploitation than mule deer can.
Yep.
And I think, as if you want to call it progress, I don't. As human development, human progress extends further across the landscape, whitetails are more adaptable than mule deer.
Way more so. Yep.
Yeah, I mean they can deal. You look at all the things that are affecting mule deer across the West: extended drought, invasive plant species like cheatgrass and knapweed and everything else.
Winter range.
Yeah.
Depletion.
Yeah. Human subdivision and development. The list goes on and on.
Wildfires.
Wildfire. Pinyon juniper. Whitetail are not nearly as impacted by that as are mule deer. And to some degree, elk are even more adaptable than mule deer.
Yeah.
I worry about mule deer.
I do too.
I mean, we were in Nevada doing a sheep hunt last week. And just north of where we did the sheep hunt, when I lived there, I had mule deer tags a couple of years. And you saw a lot of mule deer. I didn't know crap about hunting them. I just moved there from the Midwest. And I'm like, oh, look at these big mule deer. And they were just, 2.5, 3.5-year-old mule deer. But we didn't see a single mule deer.
Really?
On that sheep hunt. We found some shed antlers, but we did not see a deer. And I looked at the landscape. I'm like, well, there never used to be cheatgrass here 30 years ago when I was in. Was it? 30 years ago, I guess. The pinyon juniper canopy was little pockets. It was not these vast, just
really,
brown green kind of forests, if you want to call it a forest. Now that's there. All the old water sources have been pretty much. They're gone because of long-term drought, climate change. I don't care what you want to call it. Plus, pinyon juniper is just a water hog. So all the surface water that used to be there is dried up. Cheatgrass, wild horses. There are so many things that are affecting mule deer. You add those combinations, and it's like, man, what are we going to do about this? We have a species that's not as adaptable. And I think in some respects, in some places, they're probably getting out-competed for what remaining habitat is there. They're getting out-competed by whitetails. And to some place, elk are, just spatial distribution. Even though elk are grazers and mule deer are browsers, the landscape has changed where it provides more grazing component than it does browsing component. And just... as we take more and more of the landscape for human development, it's less for those species, and the mule deer are taking it on the chin.
They really are.
I don't know what we're going to do about that.
it makes me nervous. And I know that I'll never see the 1970s of mule deer.
Right.
And I'm afraid that my son, who's 6 months old, he's never going to see the best of what I saw or even close to it.
Right.
He might not even see a glimmer when he's 30 years old. So I'm just like, man, we got to take some serious proactive measures if we're going to hold on to it to some degree.
Right.
I mean, and you think, yeah, we got all these mule deer here and there in this place, but it's dying out.
It's fragile.
Yep, it's very fragile.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if I convince the whole world, at least the universe I operate in, Hunt Talk Radio, Leupold Hunt Talk Radio. I wonder if we convince them that they should hunt with llamas.
I sure hope so, because it'd be good for me. But regardless, when people look at llamas for the first time, it doesn't take long for the aha moments to start coming.
Right.
And I think that that's what you're giving people an opportunity, is to open their eyes to say, oh.
The best thing you did to convince me, you showed up with your llamas at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous in Missoula, Montana. And Thomas came and got me and said, Randy, you got to come and see Beau and Kirsten and their llamas. They have some here. And I walked out, and you guys spent a bunch of time explaining everything. And I'm like, well, he hasn't. I've been standing next to this thing for a half hour. He hasn't bit me or spit on me. And everyone's coming up and petting them, and they're acting just like a well-accustomed dog. You know how some dogs are really socially adapted and some just,
Yep.
These were like the dog that wags its tail at everybody. Oh, come, please pet me. Come, please look at me. I'm Marshall the llama. I'm
Marshall the llama.
And that was a moment where I'm like, you know what? I got to try this. Cool. That was what, 2 years ago? Year and a half ago? Something like that. Anyhow.
Yeah, 2 years, I think.
Yeah. And so now it's like, okay. I don't know if we need to mute the microphones when we have this discussion.
Okay.
We'll leave them running. Maybe we'll edit it out. But I really need to figure out how I get llamas for a month. You rent them by the month?
Yeah, we rent them by the month.
Really?
It's hard to do because people, there's so many requests for them.
Yeah.
But we do rent them by the month, and people usually come pick them up, and they'll have a housing arrangement, where they're gonna, when they're not out working, they're gonna keep them at their pasture, their neighbor's field or something.
Because I have a spare lot that I'm allowed to keep llamas or horses or whatever next to my house. I live outside of Bozeman.
Okay.
I'm seriously thinking about renting, but I'm one of these guys also who, if I think I need 2 of something, I buy 4.
Yeah.
If I need 5 of something, I buy 8.
I'm the same way.
Are you?
Yeah, very much so.
No, when we're planning our season this year, Beau, we're speaking for some of your llamas.
Cool.
You know where to send the invoice.
Perfect.
Or I'll give you my credit card, and it's just like, all right, it's got a $35,000 credit limit. Don't hit it for $35,000, but
funny.
There was. If I think about what it added to the quality of our experience, and that elk hunt was pleasant and easy, it seemed, even though we hiked in 7 miles, something like that. We had terrible weather. Absolute. I think about how uncomfortable we would have been on that hunt if not for what the llamas could bring of creature comforts and help us get that elk out of there.
That would have been a chore. Such a chore.
Plus all of our camp gear, our production gear, that would not have been any fun.
It would have taken us a couple extra days.
Yeah. And a couple extra days in the slop and snow and cold and miserable.
And it wasn't getting better.
No, it's getting worse. Yeah. And so let's say we had to make an extra trip to get, so we have to make one trip to get most of our stuff out. And then we got to make another trip to get most of that elk out. That's an extra 14, 15 miles. Mm-hmm. Half of which is with a heavy load. Now, what if we would have shot a second elk? I would have, without llamas, I would have been like, let's get out of here. We don't need a second elk. Let's just start, let's pull stakes now. And you're dealing with all the grizzly issues, everything else. Your mind, you're not at that point of peace and comfort. Your mind is fretting and worrying about, how am I going to get this out? Is it going to spoil? Or are we going to get snowed in? All these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were gone. All those worries and frets were gone because of your team of llamas.
Yeah.
So,
and you come out with a 30-pound pack and daydreaming about the next one.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. On the way out, well, how long did it take us to get out? 3 hours, 4 hours?
Just shy of 3 hours, yeah.
Yeah. It was nothing but a discussion about how we're going to use these llamas on the next hunt, right?
Yeah.
I was just, hey, Beau, how much would it take to get your llamas to northern Nevada? How about western Colorado? And you're like, oh, well. So it was a game changer for me. And when I say that it extends not only the field of view, but the length of time of my backcountry hunting life, it will. You will be so sick of me 5 years from now, Beau. You're going to be like, why did I ever get in touch with this Newberg guy? He is just an annoyance of the highest degree. But
I doubt it.
So you'll have how many llamas for rent this fall?
65.
65. And you'll be able to rent them out of Utah, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
You've got bases in all those places.
All places.
And when do you start renting them? As quick as archery season starts in August?
Oh, yeah. I mean, technically we start in May 1st and stop in last day of November. Typically just
November 28th. So you got 2 days left of November rental.
Yeah, nobody.
Do you have any out right now?
Yeah, we have a few out, but everyone's pretty much done.
Yeah.
I take them in December, to a few wild places, but no one's ever rented them in December before.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind taking them somewhere like Arizona in January.
In January?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say.
Or Wyoming.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, yeah, we do have an elk tag we could fill in Wyoming, so we could do that in January. But my December, January hunting is going to be for coos deer.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, and there's no place more than a mile from a road.
What's the weather like?
65 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to.
That's a vacation.
You'd have to shear your llamas just so they wouldn't overheat down there.
Sweating to death.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Now, I'm thinking about all the cool places now that we should be looking at. Some backcountry places in Idaho for elk, not deer.
Yeah.
Nevada. Oh, man. When we were doing that sheep hunt, I'm like, just north of here, up on that big mesa. Well, not a mesa, it's a mountain. There's some big bucks in there. Need to go there.
Oh, yeah. I do the same thing all the time. It drives my wife crazy all winter. Mapping. Just because there's no limits. Like, where do you want to go? It doesn't matter. We're going there.
I know.
There's no water. There's no this. There's no snow. It doesn't matter. We can go anywhere.
See, that's right there. That is the one sentence that kind of explains the beauty of llamas. We can go anywhere. And for us, when we're carrying you saw how much production gear we have.
It's a ton.
Yeah, and that was kind of leaned out compared to most hunts. We can now go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's going to be our new motto. We can go anywhere. We're going to get bumper stickers. We can go anywhere, ...
Llama tracks.
Beau Baty. Yeah, llama tracks across there. Oh, man. Funny. So how do people get a hold of Wilderness Ridge Trail Llama?
People can email me, go to our website. My phone number is 208-270-7749. Text me, call me.
All right. Let's say that. See, I end up leaving lots of messages for people, so I always say my phone number really slow.
So it's 208-270-7749. That's my phone number. You can text or call me. If I don't answer,
do that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I always walk people through and take the time to answer all their questions.
I know you do.
Yeah. And the email is wrtlbaty@gmail.com. Again,
let's say that. So it's like Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas Baty.
Baty.
B-A-T-Y.
@gmail.com.
@gmail.com. And what's the website?
Our website, you can get there two ways. You can go to rentllamas.com. Or
Rent Llamas, plural?
Yep.
Rentllamas.com.
Or you can go to wildernessridgetraillamas.com.
Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas, plural.com.
Yep.
All right.
And then we have Facebook and Instagram. You can look up the company on both of those.
You know, the cool thing about your Facebook and Instagram page, there's a lot of pictures of your wife and your son.
Yeah.
And nothing against Beau.
Sure.
But it's nice to see the family operation. This is it. You're all in, aren't you, on llamas?
Yeah.
You quit this really cool job that you had.
Yep. This is all we do now.
Yeah. I mean, that had to have been a leap of faith.
Super leap of faith for me.
Because for a while, you must have been doing both.
Yeah.
It's not like self-employed people seldom can just say, I'm done with this one and I'm starting that one. It's like you got to work two jobs for 4 or 5 years.
That's exactly what we did. 7 years.
7 years?
Yep.
Okay.
At one time, my wife was working 3 jobs plus helping with the business, and I was working, it was, we sacrificed and worked a lot to get here.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. I mean, I honestly wake up some days and I can't believe that we're running the llama business.
Yeah. Cool.
Ranching and farming and packing and hunting and outfitting. It's like what every 12-year-old boy dreams of, when he opens up the Eastman's magazine.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. So I feel very, very blessed and hope to help people, take a break from life and reality and kind of get back to some good roots and remember who they are in the backcountry.
Well, you certainly helped us do that. That's for sure. I know that Michael and Marcus had the same aha that I had.
Marcus already hit me up. He's like, hey, I got the spots 12 miles in Montana. Let's go next year.
Marcus,
all right.
Quit calling the guy, man. Or if you're going, dude, you are paying for your own llamas.
Funny.
But I also told, you don't sell llamas, do you?
Very seldom, but in about 3 or 4 years, we'll start selling a half dozen to a dozen a year.
How do I get on your list?
We just simply have a waiting list, and we just take people's name and number.
How long is the waiting list?
I should show you. It's a lengthy list right now.
Really? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm at the bottom.
Okay.
I'll work it's kind of like a point system, I guess, huh?
Yeah, bonus points.
Yeah, I'll be working the guys with 5 points are ahead of me. There's only 4 tags, so those 4 guys are gone this year, and I'll work my way up the list. So.
Yep.
No, I told Marcus, I'm like, all right, I have the ability where we could keep him at my house. My buddy Bart, he's got 20 acres.
Oh, nice.
And he keeps horses there. We could keep him there. But I told Marcus, you got to take him every weekend that I can't take him. We can't let these llamas be like accountants. Mm-hmm. They got to be ready to go.
Got to be ready to go.
We need to keep them at like LeBron James, not like Randy Newberg. So I told Marcus if we end up buying llamas, he's partly in charge of their conditioning over the summer.
What'd he say?
He was like dancing in the street, man. He's like, oh man, yeah, let's do that.
Oh, funny.
So, but
that's cool.
So is there anything we haven't taught the world about llamas and llama hunting? Not llama hunting, hunting with llamas. That sounds bad.
Hunting with llamas.
Llama hunting. Oh my goodness.
I mean, you're more new to the llama game, and people I'm sure have asking you questions. What's the first and second most frequently asked question that you get?
How much can they pack, and how much of a headache are they?
I think we covered it.
We've covered that. They are not a headache. I guess my one caution that I would want people to understand, and I didn't know this until we went and you did a lot of explaining, but instantly when I walked up to your llamas, I could see they were muscled athletes. They were, like you said, LeBron James. I've seen a lot of other llamas. They are like, man, I wonder if you can put 20 pounds on this thing.
Yeah.
Man, this thing is incorrigible. It's like, there's nothing better than a good hunting dog, and there's nothing worse than a bad hunting dog.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you want to have a great hunt, go with a great hunting dog. But if you want to just ruin your hunt, have some knothead dog that's barking, chasing,
running.
Yeah, that's annoying. It's like, I don't even want a dog. I don't know if it's kind of the same way with llamas.
Very much so.
So I just want to caution people, don't think that llamas are something you just go by and say, oh, yeah, the guy down the street he had a pet llama and he was moving, so I bought it from him, and that's going to be an animal that does what your animals do, because you explained to us in camp how many experiments, how many llamas you went through trying to find what you have now.
Absolutely.
There's a lot.
Yeah, most people wouldn't do that, but I was crazy. I still am. I went through a lot of llamas to try to figure out what I was doing and what worked and what didn't and why.
Yeah.
And some dog at the kennel just can't go win the field trials,
right?
And be a champion bird dog.
Yep.
And the same thing for llamas. You can't just go pick up a llama at the shelter and expect it to be, an extreme pack llama.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you might get lucky here and there and find a decent one.
Right.
Just like you might find a dog that might be able to retrieve.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely do your research, and not every llama is a pack llama. That's
right.
That's my most frequent saying in all the articles on the website. Not every llama is a pack llama, because we don't want people to, have a bad experience. And for people that are looking just to kind of intrigue themselves a little more, we tell them to come on overnight clinic, where we do nothing but we take care of all the males, and we feed them and show them all about the llamas, and we pack with them. And then step 2 would be they rent them, and they just realize it's a good thing. And then step 3, look at purchasing some,
But they're on the purchase list. They're below the list.
They're below
where I
Randy.
am now.
Yep.
Yeah. See,
and there's other breeders out there.
I just got on the list. So any of you who are calling in, you're on the list below me.
Definitely.
Okay. I'm just we have a tablet right here. If I got to fill out some form, something.
I got your name and number. I'll put you on for 10 of them.
10.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Let's max out the credit card.
Yeah. Let's do it. 10 of them. I could send Marcus one direction, Matthew another direction, Michael another direction, and me a different one. We could produce a lot of cool TV with 10 llamas.
Oh, yeah.
But then you'd be afraid we're getting in business with you. I want all males. Are males or females? Weren't all the ones we took, weren't they all males?
They're all males, yep.
And is that by design? They pack better, and you just don't want to. Your females are kind of like the production cycle.
Production line,
Yeah.
So the females are basically working to have babies, producing, milking, and the males are out working because they can only do their job a few months out of the year.
Right. And are they larger?
They're typically, so just recently I've kind of compiled a study of height and weight and all these different dimensions of the animals, and my females are typically larger than my males, actually.
Really?
And so if you take my average female, she's going to be bigger than my average male, both in height and weight.
I would have never dreamt that.
However, the males have a better front end. They have more muscling and have better tight-end muscling in their chest. And what that means is llamas balance 67% of their body weight on their front legs.
So 2/3 of their body weight is balanced on their front
legs. And that's why they have those big, long necks, to act as a counterbalance.
Oh.
And so when you put the weight on their back, not only are they carrying 70% of their body weight, but also the pack on the front legs. And so when going downhill, they've got to have a serious front end to be able to handle all that weight coming down on that front end.
Okay.
And the males do that better than females. Okay. It's simply by design.
Yeah. Uphill, that's not nearly as critical.
No, not nearly as critical.
Okay.
I can push my males harder uphill with a heavy load than I can downhill.
Okay.
And it's because of all that weight going on their shoulders.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, I'd say the questions I always get are, now that people have seen this as well. First, how much can they carry, and are they a maintenance headache? But then you always get I had my brother-in-law, he had this one, and it was just a wreck. You've heard
Absolutely.
You've heard them all. And I just listened to it. I'm like, yeah, okay. Obviously, it's kind of like
you got thick skin.
Yeah, you bought the dog down at the Kmart parking lot, and you expected it to be field trial champion. You got it down at the, on the free classifieds.
On the free Craigslist.
Yeah. Wanted, get the problem dog, please, just come get it.
Yeah.
Well, and then you're frustrated that it's not a world champion bird dog.
And that's what happened is, in the 90s, 80s and 90s is people bought these llamas and they tried to take them to the show ring. They tried to use them for wool, as a guard animal, as this and that. They tried to use them for, some purpose or maybe lots of purposes, and it didn't work. And so they put it online for sale or put in the newspaper and says, pack llama for sale.
Oh, so they, even though it wasn't necessarily a pack llama, they would say pack llama for sale.
And so a lot of people got llamas that were quote unquote pack llamas, and then just had horrible experiences. Llamas that couldn't even pack their own weight, and that's how I got started. Somebody sold me 2 pack llamas, and they were horrible. I just can't believe it. And the old timer would answer my phone calls after that. I was like, "These not pack llamas. I gave you the last $500 I had, mister."
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's the experiences. Not every llama's a pack llama.
That's your tagline. Mine is, we can go anywhere. You heard it here, folks. We can go anywhere now. Don't tell me your favorite unit thinking some fat accountant like Newberg will never go in there, because now I can go anywhere.
It's going to happen.
So, well, Beau, we've kept people a long time. I've kept you a long time. I know you got a life to lead, and I got to get my stuff packed up because I'm rolling out of here for Arizona.
Cool.
I'm stopping to pick up a new Nissan Titan truck while I'm here.
That's exciting. What are you going to do with the old one? Sell it to the Batys?
It's going to stay here. This is a loaner for a trip. People know that I drive Nissan Titans. I've bought 5 of them out of my own pocket. And the reason I drive them is I need something that is this mix of nimble, get around in tight, terrible places that I can almost drive off the lot and treat as a Baja buggy, but yet has enough sauce that it can tow my trailer everywhere I go. And I've tried them all. I've test driven. And the Titan just has come out as that great. The Pro 4X model is that mix of what I need. So we've been using them in our show forever. Been doing. We've talked about them out on our Hunt Talk forum, and Nissan's PR agency. They're the PR agency they use for outdoor stuff is based here in Idaho Falls.
Really?
Yeah. And they're like, you interested? We got a truck here in town that we've been using for photo shoots. It's identical to what you use. It's the new model. You want to take it on your next trip? I'm like, well, how convenient. I happen to be driving right through your town on my way to Arizona. Let me grab that thing. So
cool.
I've got about another hour here of hanging out in Idaho Falls, taking all of my junk. I have so much stuff stacked in that Titan right now and trying to figure out how am I going to get this in this other truck that doesn't have a topper shell.
Oh, wow.
But my trailer is parked in Pocatello. When we came back from the sheep hunt, I knew I'd be coming back through here. So I talked to my buddy Mike, who now lives in Pocatello, and said, hey, can I drop my trailer at your house so I don't have to tow it the extra 260 miles and then back to. So
it's good to have friends.
Yeah, I'll
in low places.
Yeah, he's in high places.
Okay.
He would say
no
that
offense,
about
Mike.
me.
No offense.
Yeah, he'd say, I got this friend Randy, and he's in a pretty low place in life. But I warned the Nissan guys. I'm like, hey, I can't assure you what shape this truck will be in when I bring it back in 12 days, because to me, trucks are tools. Yeah, I don't baby them. I don't take it easy on them. And you can ask all my camera guys. I've offered them to buy my trucks at screaming deals. And they're like, Randy, I see what you do to your trucks.
No way.
No. So do not buy a used truck from Randy Newberg. Kind of like the old saying, you never buy a used truck from a rancher or a logger.
Oh, yeah.
You never buy a used truck from Randy Newberg, because
got it.
I completely hammer them. But these Titans just keep chugging along. I have knock on some wood here.
Yeah, you got 12 days with one. You better like it.
Yeah, I've never had a Titan with a mechanical failure.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
The places I go, the things I do, I'm always towing a trailer. I've chained up all fours.
I've seen.
Yeah, I take it to, there's a spot in New Mexico in a place I elk hunt a lot where it was the closest I came to destroying my truck. It says this road is open. I'm driving. I hear some ATVs coming up, and we get kind of looking at each other. They're glassing the same spot I am. I walk over there, and their first question was, "How did you get that truck up here?" Well, you see all those marks and scratches and stuff. That's how I got it up there. So, but
funny.
We'll give it the once over, I guess, and I'll report back to the crowd. Yeah, guess what? The new model Titan, it works or it doesn't work. And
left me stranded. Beau had to come pick us up.
Let's hope not. If that happens, I don't think that'll happen. Let's put it that way.
Oh, they're great trucks.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing in my next hour here. So I'm going to have to get off the microphone just like you do. You got life to leave. You got llamas to take care of.
Yep.
And I better let you to it.
Sounds good.
I can't thank
Thanks,
you enough,
Randy.
Beau, for coming on that trip with us.
Oh yeah, it's my
for
pleasure.
teaching me so much about llamas, about their history, about just the nuances of what is a pack llama and not a pack llama, and for all you do for being an ambassador for hunting. You get exposed to a lot of people that, in a context that is a lot more intimate than a Facebook debate.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that someone like you is out there talking to these people and showing them the landscape, showing them these amazing places through the lens of a hunter.
Yeah.
That's helpful to our cause in a great way.
Well, I'll do it as long as I can. I really enjoy it.
And for you folks, thanks so much for listening. Hope you'll continue to listen. Hope you'll share this podcast. Hope you'll join our Hunt Talk forum. And I hope that you'll go out to our videos that we talked about here in this podcast. All these llama videos of that hunt are out on our YouTube channel, Randy Newberg Hunter. And we just sent the footage to the editor. And it's going to be out on our Amazon video platform soon.
Cool.
In January, it's going to be a really long story. You know how in TV we get compressed to these 20, 22-minute stories with commercial breaks? Not this one.
Really?
I bet you this episode is going to be somewhere between 40 and 60 minutes of just nonstop, no break in the story.
Wow.
Because there's no commercials.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. This is going to be our first year of putting stuff out on our Amazon platform that's longer content and no commercial breaks. It always frustrated me. We'd just be getting to a good part of the story, and then the network says, well, you got to have a commercial break at this point. So you end up almost having to build your story around these
commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
Cool.
These new platforms allow us to do it differently. So,
just like llamas, do whatever you want.
Yeah, we can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, Randy Newberg's other motto is we can tell any story.
Yeah, we can tell any story.
Well, folks, thanks for listening. Again, Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas, get a hold of Beau. I can assure you it's going to open your eyes to new places and new ideas about hunting that you had not thought of before now. So thanks so much, Beau. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and thanks for listening, folks. We'll let's see. I'm going on an Arizona elk hunt. We'll report about this Arizona elk hunt when we get done with that. That should be another good podcast. So
sounds
hopefully
great.
It's not the weather forecast. I look, wind mixed with rain and snow every day we're there. Winds 20 to 35 miles an hour. That is not good. So. Oh, even room service is coming to kick me out. I better go.
Out.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for listening. Folks, 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 thanks for